Hey folks, Steve Bird here. Welcome back. The other day I was out doing some wintertime maintenance with my solar array. I was basically having to sweep some snow build up off of the panels so that we could get some charging. And it occurred to me during that process that that was exactly the kind of thing people needed to see for those who are considering making the leap to off-grid solar. So I pulled out my cell phone and I filmed a little clip. So let me play that for you right now, and then we'll talk some more. Here it goes. Hey folks, welcome to Tennessee in January. We don't get a lot of snow here. There's been a few years in the recent past that we've not gotten any at all. It kind of misses us, goes around us or whatever. But this year, we're getting plenty. And excuse me. As you can see, this is one of the drawbacks of off-grid solar. Drawback, inconvenience, however you want to look at it. So you can see I got my handy-dandy ultra extendable push broom here. And it's kind of a regular thing. If it's snowy, I'll do this with my left hand. I can't do anything with my left hand. When it's snowy, you gotta come out and do a little bit of panel maintenance. Now if it's currently snowing, like see right there, I already wiped that off and it's building up already. But the sun's supposed to come out. It's trying. So hopefully this will get us enough power to keep the batteries, because it's early in the morning, right? And it's about 8 o'clock in the morning. So our batteries are 80% from running our furnace all night long, running the fans for the furnace, the gas furnace, but the batteries have to power the fans at night. So that took us down from 100% going into the night to 80 this morning. So I'm cleaning the panels off, hoping to get enough charge from what little bit of sun we do get so that we can avoid a generator start. It's not a big deal. We've got an industrial generator. A lot of you have seen it in the other videos. Liquid cooled. It'll last us a long time. But as my friend Scott Hunt, Engineer 775 here on YouTube says, you can't make your own propane, but you can make your own solar. So with that in mind, we try pretty hard to avoid unnecessary generator starts. So anyway, as you can tell, see I got a big chunk of it right there just while I was talking to you. So it doesn't take too terribly long. The one thing though is if you get freezing rain and you get that real kind of rough ice on top of your panels, you can't sweep that off. Pretty much got to wait for the sunshine for that. But this takes a little bit of dad time. Maybe when my girls get a little older, they can be out here doing this. But just got to spend a little time in the morning when it snows the night before to get them knocked off so you can get some charging. I'm sure if I was looking at the screen on my solar, I would already see an uptick in our PV production just from what little bit I've done. Well, my fingers are freezing. I just wanted to share this little tidbit of the realities of off-grid living with you. So stay warm. Bye. As you can see, snowfall is a big consideration when you're living off-grid. Where we live, the snowfall is something we only have to deal with a couple times a year. This year's been heavy compared to most. It's usually literally just a few snowfalls a year, and that's it. But if you live up north, you better brush up on your brooming skills. One thing that may be worth considering if you live in an area that's likely to get a lot more snowfall in the winter is the use of bifacial solar panels. Bifacial panels basically can accept light from both sides. That way, if there's snow on the top of the panel, light reflecting off of the brightly colored snow on the bottom, or sand if you're in the desert, can reflect up and get to the panel from the back. So you can't get sunshine from here, but you can get it from here. So in a snowy environment, that may be exactly what you need to be looking at. When we put up our array, I'm not sure those were really available. I think they're fairly new, but it would have been something I considered, even though, for all intents and purposes, that it's a few and far between type thing where we would be getting any kind of light from the back. So we're pretty good with what we got, but if you live up north, you may want to consider it. I hadn't even heard of them until recently. I was talking to a fellow YouTuber and friend, Scott Hunt, who's Engineer 775 on here. He had talked about them the last time I placed an order with him. I got another pallet of panels I've yet to put up. We discussed them then. And then later on, I was up in Michigan on other business and just happened to be having dinner with Kyle Sinclair of Sinclair Ground Mounts. Ironically, I have a Sinclair ground mount, and had no idea who he was until I met up with him through mutual friends and had dinner with him that night. And then we got to chatting. But anyway, we were talking about that because them being up in Michigan, snow is a bigger deal. So he chatted with me a bit on that. And I think it's definitely something you need to look into if you live in a snow-prone area, as long as you're going to do a ground mount. Obviously, that wouldn't work with a roof mount type situation. So what other things should you consider before taking the plunge and setting out to live off-grid? Year-round, that is. I mean, summers are fairly easy. The length of daylight in your area is a big one. The period of the day in the summer, you've got long days. In the winter, you got short days. The period of available daylight plays a big role in our solar production, and we're pretty far south, so we're not radically affected as much as some people would. This time of year at our latitude, we see just over 9 hours of daylight, and in the summer, we get a little over 14 and a half. I think 14 hours, 37 minutes is kind of our peak. That extra 5 hours of daylight, though, pays big dividends in terms of our solar production. And in the summer, the days are so long, even if you have a thunderstorm early in the day, thunderstorm comes, it gets all black and dark and rains, and then the sun comes back out. When it's over, you get all your rain right then. And the days are so long that even if that happens, you've still got a lot of time at the end of the day to get your batteries charged back up before you go in to the night. Or, on the flip side, if you have an evening storm that cuts your power generation off early, the sun comes up so early in the winter or in the summer that you get right back to that charging cycle, and it doesn't affect you a whole lot. Our generator hardly ever runs in the summer. It has to be a pretty extreme weather event to cause a generator start in the summer. But and generally speaking, our batteries, when the sun comes up in the summer, our batteries are back at 100% by about 10 a.m. Because it comes up so early. In the winter, however, the clouds tend to linger. It's not a thunderstorm. It don't throw it all out there and be gone. Your clouds will linger for multiple days at a time. That combined with the shorter duration of the day's available sunlight, and you'll quickly get into your generator start numbers if you're running moderate or heavy loads through your system. Personally, our generator is set to start at 60% because we're using flooded lead acid batteries for reasons explained in other videos. But regardless, if you want to avoid generator starts in the winter, you kind of got to watch your usage. Another thing that impacts, or that those shorter days in the winter, how they can impact you is the for lack of a better term, in the house with the lights on time. It's dark outside by 5:30 or 6 in January. So like right now, we're facing some of our shorter days. So generally, you end up going in the house early. Everybody's watching TV, playing video games, on the computer. They're up and about with the lights on from 5:30 or 6 until, people go to bed around 10 or so. So that's a lot of lights on time where you're not producing power. So it's not all too rare for us to go to bed and be down to 85-90% already on our batteries if we were using some heavy loads during that, up with the lights on time. In the summer, however, we stay outside longer. It's beautiful days until 9:30, 10 o'clock. The kids are out on trampolines. My wife and I are out doing farm chores and other things. So we're generally in the house using less. And to add to that, since the sun doesn't go down till so late, our batteries stay topped off a lot farther into the day. And then we'll basically go to bed in the summer and our batteries will still be at 100%. And then since the nights are shorter, by the time we get back up the next morning, we've not depleted them very much far. and they're still doing pretty good the next morning. The long winter nights definitely require a lot more from your batteries than those short summer nights. In the winter, like today, for example, it's not uncommon for us to wake up with the batteries at 66%. Now, like I said, with the generator auto start numbers being programmed for 60%, we came pretty close to a generator start this morning. Our furnace is propane based, but the fans run all night long, pushing the hot air, and that's so you got longer nights, shorter days, and more use during the night running that furnace. You can opt to not run your air conditioner, but it's hard to opt to not run your furnace. In the summer though, with the shorter days and the longer days and the shorter nights, we'll wake up 85-90% the next morning. Our battery's ready to go. So even if we had storms the next morning, we got plenty of power to carry us through till that storm passes and the light comes back out. As I mentioned in other videos on the off-grid living, you kind of got to consider solar as basically kind of like a Dave Ramsey type of situation. Basically, you can't spend it if you don't have it in the bank. He doesn't want you using credit, right? So only spend it if you got it in the bank. And for us, that means having the energy stored in our battery banks or having the sunshine coming in excess from the panels with the batteries already full. So since you can only spend what you have to be conscious of kind of what's going on with your system to avoid unwanted generator starts. For example, if conserving your available generator fuel is a concern, like it is with us, we've got a 500-gallon propane tank for a generator, but we still don't want to waste propane. You may want to wait and do your laundry on a sunny day when the sun's out and you've got plenty of energy to run your washer and dryer without even tapping into the batteries, just free right out of the sky. You can, of course, opt to just blast right on and burn all the power you want, but then you could potentially get into a generator start scenario where now you're burning your propane or whatever you use for generator fuel. And again, the propane is money in the bank. Now you got to choose: do I want to spend that now, or do I want to save it? The way I see it, as Scott Hunt once told me, you can make your own solar, but you can't make your own propane. And I, for one, try to conserve whatever it is that we have to rely on a supply chain to provide. God provides the sunshine; it's there every day, so I'm going to use that to the best of my ability. Man has to provide me with propane, so I'm going to be careful with that, because you never know when there's going to be a supply chain disruptions or price hikes and other such things. Some people also ask when talking about living during the winter with off-grid solar is if they can use electric heaters. Now, as most people who know anything about electrical devices knows, generating heat with electricity is very inefficient. But we've got ample power on tap when the sun's out to do so. So my answer is yes, we can. What I tend to do for electric heat, though, is like if I wake up on a sunny, crisp, cold morning, the sun's out, batteries are already getting replenished, I'll go flip on our electric fireplace. We've got one of those fireplaces that projects, the dancing flames on a little screen. And it's essentially a fancy electric heater, and it's got electric heater and fans behind that blow hot air out. So you feel the warmth coming off the fireplace, but it's electric. We'll use that when the sun's out and it's cold outside, because it's just free energy right out of the sky. And as long as the sun's out and our panels are producing, it's not that electric heater's not drawn from our batteries. It's basically just free heat. So in that case, why waste your propane? Save the propane for later on that night when you don't have the sunshine. On the cloudy days, we try to conserve our stored electricity and just use a propane furnace, because the propane furnace is a lot more efficient. I mean, you're running electric fans and stuff, but it's a lot more efficient than basically anything that generates heat from electrical means. Now, we could obviously go on for days on this subject, but that's the meat and potatoes of it. If you have any other winter-related solar off-grid living questions, please feel free to put them down in the comments below. And also, if you could like and subscribe, I greatly appreciate it. That helped me reach more folks who may be trying to decide if they want to make the plunge and become more energy independent and live off the grid, which we wholeheartedly recommend, so long as you consider all the points. So, oh, and by the way, One last thing. It may seem inconvenient to have to brush off your solar panels a couple times a year. Well, at least in our part of the country, a couple times a year. But I'm at least in control of that. And our power never fails. We always have electricity. Our neighbors can't say the same thing. You know, if an ice storm comes through, you know, they may lose power for 3 or 4 days because lines all over the place are going down, because tree branches are going down. You know, there could be a car wreck, hit a pole and cause the power to go out. Routine maintenance, upgrades. You know, there's all kinds of things that when you're on grid can cause your power to go off. But for us, our power works, 24/7, 365. I may have to, you know, put some warm clothes on, go outside and brush the solar panels off every now and then. But at least I'm in control of my situation, and I'm willing to do that extra work for that kind of a benefit. So anyway, thanks again, and we'll see y'all again real soon. Thanks for watching.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting